How you solve multi-step equations? Let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome to the mythical world of math. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be talking about how we solve multi-step equations. The equations that we're going to be working with today will involve several steps, including using the distributive property and combining like terms. So if you're still struggling with those two concepts, please go back and check our previous videos for extra help. So let's get right to it and take a look at our first example. So here we have 3 times the quantity x minus 5 equals 21. Now there are 2 ways to go about solving this particular example. The first way that we're going to talk about is using the distributive property. We see that number 3 outside the parentheses, and so the first thing that you should think is I need to distribute that 3 to everything inside the parentheses. So if I do that, okay, I get 3x minus 15 equals 21. Now because we did that, we now end up with a 2-step equation. So our goal to get x by itself, we need to get rid of the 15, so we're going to add 15 to both sides. That'll give us 3x equals 36. Then the last thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of the 3, so we divide both sides by 3, and that leaves us with x equals 12. Now that was just one way to solve that equation. If we start over and we look back at the original problem, if you remember what distribute actually means multiply. So instead of distributing, we can actually get rid of that 3 right away by doing the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by the number 3. So when we divide both sides by 3, the 3 in front of the parentheses will cancel, and that'll leave us with x minus 5. And because that 3 is not there anymore, the parentheses are actually no longer needed, so we don't even need to write them. So we just get x minus 5 equals 7. Now this is a simple one-step equation. All we got to do is add 5 to both sides, and we get the same answer that we had before, which is x equals 12. You can solve that equation either way. Neither way I would say is better than the other. So in our next example here, okay, we have 2 times the quantity x minus 8 minus 6x equals 14. Now this one works a little bit differently than the last one, because if you'll notice, there is an extra term outside of the parentheses, that minus 6x. And that's actually causing us a little bit of a problem. Now, there are still several ways to go about solving this problem, but the best way I would say is to actually just go ahead and use the distributive property. Because if you notice, if we're trying to solve for x, there are 2 x's on the left side of that equation. You can't solve for something when there's 2 of them. So how do we take 2 of them and put them together? Well, we're going to combine like terms. But we can't combine like terms until we get rid of the parentheses. And the best way to get rid of the parentheses in this case is to use the distributive property. So if we distribute that 2, we end up with 2x plus 16 minus that 6x. We do not distribute the 2 to the 6x because that 6x is not inside the parentheses, okay? We just leave it alone and tag it on at the end. Equals 14. So now what you'll notice is the parentheses are gone, but we have 2 x's that are like terms. So we're actually going to combine those. We're going to subtract the 6x because it's minus 6x. So we got 2x minus 6x, which is negative 4x plus 16 equals 14. So now we're going to subtract 16 from both sides. That gives us negative 4x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 4. Because we're dividing by negative 4, the negatives will cancel. Remember, 2 negatives make a positive. So that gives us x equals 2/4, but really you need to reduce that down to 1/2. So our answer is x equals 1/2. Now, when solving multi-step equations, there are all sorts of possible ways you can go about solving them. Usually it involves distributing and combining like terms. Please identify anytime you have a like term on the same side of an equation and do your best to try to combine those to make your equations smaller. I hope this video helped you better understand how to solve multi-step equations. If it did, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.